Hi, everyone. Welcome to our second podcast. And here I am reading the Washington Post and hoping it's one of those onion articles, hoping it's not real. But it seems as though it is. Allegedly, a conductor plays Rite of Spring at a club and berates the audience for acting like they're at a club. It's kind of ridiculous because we have a lot of these so-called revolutionary conductors who step up and try to do various things in revolutionary ways, but it doesn't come out to be that way. And the conductor is James Blachly or Blakely. Not sure how to pronounce that last name, but it's not about the last name. It's about his actions. And recently he conducted an orchestra at a club, and allegedly he turned around to the audience various times and told them they're not at a club and they should stop using their cell phones and they should be dancing and they shouldn't be talking, and we're the club, Mr. Conductor, and hope you get this message at some point. If you don't understand the context of what you're trying to do, you should probably not do it. The club atmosphere, if you've never been there, it calls for that sort of action. It calls for cell phones to be used at all times, to take pictures, to post on Instagram and Facebook and all kinds of social media. If you're not used to it, if you don't come into that place with that mentality, then you should not be doing what you're trying to do with the orchestra. Did you give the audience context of what the Rite of Spring is about? Maybe if you gave them context of what the Rite of Spring is about, maybe they would have responded to it better. You don't give them context. You're speaking in a language that is quite foreign at this point for most of the audience, and you're not giving them context and expecting them to act and behave a certain way. And even if you gave the context, and even if they went on and did the things that they did throughout the night, that still does not give you the right to talk to the audience in that manner. The problem for musicians, conductors acting in this manner is our fault as audiences, because we give them the right to talk to us in that manner. We don't confront them. We give them the big paychecks. We let them talk and do as they like without confronting the situations. And the mission of this podcast is to confront these situations and not just bypass them like they're nothing. And I thank the Washington Post for addressing this problem, and it's a serious problem in music, especially coming with regard to conductors. And this issue aside, we come to another conductor. This conductor, who is from Indiana, conducting the Indianapolis Symphony Orchestra, allegedly he discriminated against some of the older players in the orchestra. This comes to mind right away for all those listeners. In the world, in the 21st century, where we're having a hard time getting audiences into our concert halls, and of course that depends on the orchestra, that depends on the situation, but for the most part, you walk down the street, you talk to someone, you talk to any person, some of them don't even know what a bassoon is. They don't know what an oboe is. They don't know what an orchestra is. They don't know what a conductor is. They confuse a conductor with a composer. In the 21st century, we live in this world, and yet we have conductors who go after various musicians who've spent a lifetime mastering their craft, their art form. Instead of going after musicians, instead of these world famous conductors going around conducting 10-15 guest conducting appearances, instead of them having 3 or 4 so-called full-time positions with orchestras, instead of doing that, how about you spend time with the orchestra? How about you dig in and go out and perform various concerts for the community? Yeah, some of them might, 1 or 2, but that's not the purpose of a modern day orchestra. We have to dig in and we have to expect much more from these conductors. They can't just come in and waltz into the concert hall thinking there's something, and perform 4 or 5 concerts every 6 months, and 4 or 5 programs, I should say, and expect them to get away with such things. We expect assistant conductors to address these issues. We expect assistant conductors to go out in the community and do those community concerts. We expect assistant conductors to do the family and holiday concerts. We expect pops conductors to do the pops concerts. But what do we expect from music directors? Are they the kings of the world, where they just come in and do the so-called serious programs? You know how many times I've had various people come to me and, as a conductor, ask, why don't they see that major conductor from this city or that city conductor orchestra? And I ask them what programs they've seen. And of course, the answer is always a pops program or a family program or a community outreach program. And where are those world famous conductors? And I always tell them they're here because they're the kings and they only come in for the serious stuff. They don't have time for these so-called little, not so serious music. Where are you? Do you care for the communities? Each professional orchestra in every major city is responsible to address the communities that they serve, and yet they don't do it to their full potential. And to their full potential requires the music director going out at least every 2 weeks and addressing these issues. But we have management companies who let them act and be a certain way. I understand the music director's position requires far more than just doing the concerts. Of course, it requires a lot of other things. You have to go out and talk to sponsors. You have to go out and make connections with various people that are important for the organization. I understand all of this. But if you have time to go out and conduct 20 guest conducting appearances around the world, hold 2, 3, 4, 5 full-time positions with various orchestras, then you definitely have the time to serve the community that you signed up to serve. And even if that's not part of your description as a musician, as a conductor, as a leader of the 21st century, you should initiate those things instead of just walking around and feeling like you're the king of the world without putting in the hours and the time to truly dig in and serve your community. Thank you so much for joining me today. We'll dive deeper into the role of a music director during our next podcast and discuss further. If you have any questions, comments, or if you know anyone interested in joining the podcast, please let them know. Thank you so much, and looking forward to speaking with you soon.